Hello, everyone. My name is Professor George. I am your instructor for this semester. You are watching this video, hopefully because you are registered for Music 1300, Music, its Language, History, and Culture. This is the first video that you'll be watching in a series that incorporates lectures from our first unit to our fifth unit and culminates with a sort of final project at the end of the term. But this introductory video is kind of important because it's my chance to get to have you get to know me, but also for me to tell you how the class is designed and what the sort of bigger benchmarks are throughout the semester. So I am somewhat new to online teaching. Of course, we've been forced into a predicament where we're doing most of our things online now, but I am certified to teach online classes and have recently acquired some interesting tools in my toolkit regarding dissemination of my knowledge on the online medium. However, I will mention that my heart and soul really belongs to in-person performance and education, which is one of the reasons why I go to the trouble of making you these specific videos to just kind of illustrate some of my points that I would have otherwise done in person. It is much easier indeed for me to just do this with PowerPoint presentations or even audio recordings, but I really feel like video lectures that incorporate my whiteboard and some other, notes, etc., is kind of the best way to learn about the subject that we're going to embark on. The first day of class, I usually go to great lengths to go over the syllabus with you. So the thing that you need to do after part one of this first section is to definitely go through the entire syllabus. The syllabus is somewhat subject to change throughout the semester, but I really do try to keep it the same from the beginning to the end. It changes semester by semester, which is why I'm not going to record this particular semester's syllabus right now, but the general guidelines are the same. The course objective here, the big thing that I want you to learn at the end of the semester is how to speak more articulately about music that you encounter in the everyday. And I know that you all experience music, whether you listen to it at home or, when you were commuting from point A to point B, or when you're working out, or music as a way to accompany ceremony or celebrations, or even if you've ever watched a film or an episode of TV, there's music everywhere. And many people think it is a mystical subject because music is, of course, incredibly intangible. You can't touch it. It evolves and elapses in time. So it's one of the art forms that lacks that particular kind of substance value. And even so, even though it comes off as particularly elusive, there are some ways in which we can, I think, more clearly discuss our musical ideas or why we like or dislike a particular piece of music. So that's the big goal of the semester, for you, the student, to gain a greater understanding of what music is all about and how to engage with the vocabulary that we learn throughout the semester with what you particularly listen to. Music is an auditory art form. So one of the things that you're going to do most in this class is listen to music. Listening to the pieces that I go over in lecture just one time is truly not enough. You should go through my lecture videos, which incorporate the musical examples, but also supplement them by listening to the playlist that I've set aside for you as well. Only a really advanced listener is able to listen to a piece of music once and describe some salient features of that piece of music. So you guys are all new to this. You're going to have to live with these pieces of music a little bit longer, which means repeated listenings. This generally brings me to one of my most famous equations regarding classes. So for every hour you spend in lecture, for every hour that your course schedule says that you're in class with an instructor, you should be putting in 2 hours of work outside of that class. Which means if you're taking this as like a fall or spring semester class with me, you're meeting me for an hour and 15 minutes 2 times a week, so 2.5 hours, which means like, you've got like 5 hours that you really need to be spending outside of that class time to really engage appropriately with the lecture topics. So even more so if you're taking this as an accelerated class in the summer or even in the winter term, okay? So just be sure that like you make note of that. We have a lot of ground to cover, but again, this is a college level class and engages with some upper level thinking, even if it is as a part of the core requirement for undergraduates. I should probably tell you what I do. I already introduced myself. Like I said, my name is Professor George. I am a PhD candidate in music composition at the Keeney Graduate Center. I did my master's at Brooklyn College and my undergraduate at the California Institute of the Arts, which is a Disney-endowed school of madness. Why I make mention of that is I'm a composer and conductor. So I run my own ensemble. It's called the Curiosity Cabinet. And what that group does is it generally plays music of mine, but other living composers as well, but usually music that integrates not only like live performance, but also other mediums outside of music, like dance or choreography or puppetry, from marionette puppetry to shadow puppetry. We sometimes do music that involves narration or theater, or visual presentations as well to some extent, burlesque or aerialist acts. So that's what one of my interests as a composer is, where music meets other disciplines. And in as much, because I create music and because I compose music, I'm very interested in getting you, listeners, to more deeply appreciate what's happening in music and to try to like widen your palette, of course. There are so many pieces this semester that you're going to run into that you either know or that you don't know. And I am more excited about category 2, introducing you to pieces in the popular music canon and the art music canon that you've never experienced before, and hopefully sort of broaden your horizons when it comes to perhaps the musical genres that you're interested in. So this class, it's taught in 5 different units. The first unit that we will embark on is our unit on rhythm and texture, 2 of the most salient features in a piece of music. Texture describes the number of independent layers that are ongoing in a piece of music at a time. So density, how many, the amount of musical activity that's happening. Rhythm, otherwise, our sort of heartbeat or pulse, or metric alignment that we feel when we listen to a piece of music. And we'll talk about all of the different experiments that happen within regards to rhythm and meter. So that's our first unit. Our second unit is about timbre, tone color, the way different instruments sound. And we're going to investigate this topic based on different kinds of ensembles and tracing them throughout history. We'll talk about the string quartet, we'll talk about the orchestra, and percussion ensembles, and how composers have even made new instruments to explore their compositional ideas. The third unit will talk about form or structure, the way in which musical ideas are represented. We'll talk about sonata allegro form and the history of the symphony. We will also discuss tone poems and program symphonies of the Romantic era. One of my favorite lectures that's a part of that unit is talking about music that's been banned. The use of leitmotifs and specifically tritones, the dissonant interval, and how that has played a little bit of a role throughout history. Our fourth unit, we will talk about harmony. Harmony is a somewhat advanced topic in which there is a whole other course that's dedicated to it, Music 1400, and then a whole other music theory sequence that's a part of the Music Conservatory. Harmony, we're going to talk about the first Viennese school and the second Viennese school and how harmony has developed over time as well. And looking at key composers and key works to investigate that. And then our fifth unit, which is by far my absolute favorite, is what I call the musical arts unit. We're going to discuss where the meeting place of all of these different art forms. So we're going to talk about opera, talk about tragic endings that happen in opera. We'll also talk about video game music. Absolutely. I have a whole lecture prepared about video game music. Also, how particular filmmakers have used music in order to kind of cultivate a particular signature touch. And we're going to talk about David Lynch and some of his really iconic cinematic projects. And we'll also talk about, maybe that's it in that unit. I think there's one other one that I'm forgetting, but it'll come to me later. Very, very excited about that particular unit, and I think you guys will too. It has a lot to, Broadway, there we go. We'll talk about the history of Broadway, especially because we live in New York City or the surrounding area, and how the theater district came about. So a little bit of New York culture as well. So 5 different units. Essentially the way that the class goes is there are like 3 to 4 lectures that are part of each unit. After we do a unit, you take a quiz and you do an assignment that's based on the unit. That assignment is usually a reading that is you respond to in a 1-page prompt. All of these materials, by the way, are going to either be on Blackboard or Dropbox based on whatever we decide we're going to use in the semester. If it's online only, it's going to be Blackboard for sure. If it's a hybrid class, perhaps Dropbox. But in any event, all of these materials are available to you on one of the platforms that we'll be using. And it's really essential that you know how to use whatever platform we're using. So if you have any confusion or any difficulty with that, you really have to email me for sure, so that I can help you out, because that's the main method in which I'm going to be able to convey these materials to you. So at the end of the semester, there is either a final exam or a final project. It really depends on, I switch it up semester by semester. Whatever I decide, it is in the syllabus, but there is a larger component that you fulfill at the very end of the semester, which is supposed to kind of tie everything together. The course is designed so that you really can't skip out on any one particular component and still like pass it with like an A grade. So the 5 homework assignments are worth 30 points each. The 5 quizzes range from 30 to 40 points each. The final project, whatever it is, if it's an exam or a report of sorts, it's going to be about 100 points. And then there's like an attendance category. All of this is really specifically outlined in your syllabus. But again, that's kind of the general breadth of the class. Again, I think I should come back to our main goal of the semester. We think about accumulating vocabulary through these 5 different units, which each have very sort of specific individual topics that we'll investigate. So We're gonna start off like talking about music in decades and a lot of popular music right up front in our first unit, and sort of start to venture into some more art music territory and music history as we press forward into our second, third, and fourth units, and then kind of come back around to the 20th century as well towards the end. So this is not like a music history course, which is how some people end up teaching it. We take a slice of history, really sometimes like a small 10-year segment, or sometimes a whole segment of 150 years when we talk about a particular era. So some of the music I know you're gonna really, really enjoy and you've never heard before. Some of it is going to maybe test your patience, also an exciting idea for me. But parts, the parts that follow this introduction are going to be actual lecture components, which we would cover on our first day. However, at this point, the important thing for you to do is not go on to part 2 until you read the syllabus. The syllabus outlines more specifically the things that I talked about in general. But hopefully you got a little bit of an idea about me. My apartment, which I am currently in, also says a lot about me, I think. I'm a sort of eccentric and artistic individual who is incredibly passionate about music. And I'm so glad that I get to share the thing that I am most passionate about with you. So without further ado, enjoy going through your entire syllabus, after which please start part 2 so we can actually learn a couple of key terms to start us off for the semester. Talk to you guys soon.